Karen, did you get a copy of the minutes?
Oh, is Karen here yet?
I'm sorry, Mary.
Oh, yes, I did. I actually got them, but I need to, would you be able to share them just because I honestly got them and I was like sailing in from work, so I haven't actually gotten to look at them because I just didn't.
I'll try to share.
All right. I can probably find them. I can probably find them on my email while we're getting started here. Let me see.
Yeah, I hear some feedback, Mike. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm still on YouTube. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I can find it. I think Tody sent it, didn't she? There it is.
Well, I get errors with I don't know why this Mac does not like this Zoom that I get from you guys. I know it's supposed to be the same thing, but
we have like a Chromebook and I cannot do Zoom on that. Like it always, I think I tried using that our first meeting and it kept, saying it was unstable. But then when I use this other laptop, it does fine. So I don't know. I don't understand why it's the same, internet, but for some reason that computer doesn't work.
yeah.
I'm wondering if it's me. Do you hear reverberation when I speak? No?
No?
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, we are streaming live. Hi, Karen.
Hello.
Hi, Karen.
Hi there.
All right, I can't share. I don't know why.
Well, I found it. I've got it up now, okay. So.
All right, I guess I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Subcommittee Group 1 from the Charter Review Committee, and it's Thursday, March 4th. So we're here to discuss Chapter 4, but I'm sorry, Chapter 10. And I'll take roll call. I see Mary's here, Karen, myself, and Tom is representing the town. So I'll call the meeting in order. Tom, can you share? Do you have the spreadsheet, those kinds of things? If not, I can read it.
I do not. I beg your pardon. I have a paper copy in front of me here. I think we can probably stumble through it, Mike.
Okay. And Karen and Mary, are you okay with that?
Yep. As long as, because I don't think let's see if I have a paper copy. I know I printed one, but then it came out really small, so I didn't do that.
Yeah, I have a paper copy as well.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why he won't share, but.
Let me see if it's a setting that I can change for you.
I don't know. No, it's asking for credentials of some sort that I'm not accustomed to seeing on this Mac. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. No.
It's the green option down at the bottom.
Right. Yeah. Who can share? All panelists, who can share?
I made you co-host, so you should be able to have all rights.
Okay. Just won't let me, looks like I might be able to share a document. Nope. No, I'm not going to waste time on it. I mean, I do it through work all the time, but I don't know why it doesn't work. All right, so I guess the first order of business is if we've all had a chance to review the minutes that Tody sent to us.
Yes.
From our last meeting. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 19th.
Second.
And any discussion? Admissions, omissions, corrections? Seeing none. Did I hear something? No?
Nope, they said they look good to me.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Show that to be unanimous, thank you. Okay, so I have opened I hope is the latest Charter Review Committee spreadsheet. And I've toggled down to the first comment that relates to, what do we call these, chapters or
Articles.
articles? Article 10. So let me know if everybody's with me. Article 10, 1002, and it was submitted by McGee.
Mike, if it helps, I'll share my screen just showing the actual charter language so we can see.
Oh, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah,
Go
that's
right ahead.
a good idea. So Karen and Mary, are you on that line?
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you wouldn't mind just reading, or is that a long one? Because I had it up and I'm just, oh, there it is. Okay.
No, I can read it.
Oh, okay.
How about you, Karen?
What are we looking at?
We're looking at the spreadsheet, the Google spreadsheet.
Yep.
The first entry for Article 10, item or subchapter, whatever they call it, article 1002.
Yep.
Okay, so McGee speaks of fines. Fines, is this range tied to state law? Question mark. $100 doesn't seem very stiff of a penalty for non-compliance. And let's see, Tom has brought up the section.
Yeah, he's referring to the instance where the council petitions a court to summons witnesses and the person fails to comply.
Does this happen very often, Tom, where they ask for, I've never heard of it happening, but I didn't know
No.
if it happens. Yeah,
Just took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I can pose the question to legal counsel as to are those numbers just antiquated? Could they be updated and modernized?
Yeah, quickly, what is this for? At the request of town council, clerk of clerks may issue summons for witnesses to attend. Oh, okay. So it's
Failure to respond to a summons. And what the town can impose a fine, maybe on top of any other fines, or?
but it's a fine that may be imposed upon an agent of the town or a elected.
No, it's someone that's summons to appear and provide testimony. And this would be in the context of, and I quote, and it's this language here, a hearing
Hearing.
on any matter relating to administration or town affairs. I honestly can't articulate a scenario just because I've never experienced it. Let's take some example. There's a bid and there's some sort of impropriety in the bid and the council wants to have some public investigation of it. And summonses the actors to appear before them to answer questions.
But these actors, Tom, would they not have to be agents of the town or employees?
No, not necessarily. No, in the scenario I just gave you, it would be, private parties that are submitting a bid for town work.
Yeah, but I just don't see how the town has any jurisdiction over whether.
Well, you go to a court, and the Superior Court is what directs it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, is this reiterating state law or is this on top of it? I think is probably the question I would have. Because if
Well, I
it's
think
state
it's.
law, does it need to be in there? Because
Well, I think this is the voice of our voters saying we want our council to be able to act as a quasi judicial kind of tribunal if circumstances, because that capacity would arguably might be outside of their normal duties.
right.
Listen, this would be pretty extreme situation and circumstance. I think the narrow question in front of you is the fine still appropriate?
Yeah, I guess my curiosity is getting away from me, but. Well, yeah, go ahead, Karen. What do you
No,
say?
I think it's fine unless, the other towns are doing something. It seems like an appropriate slap on the wrist of reality, like you have an obligation beyond this to to show up. And if you don't, 200, it's same as the numbers, 100, 200. Is it going to matter?
Yeah.
To me, the fact that Tom, and the length of time you've been, in Scarborough, which is a good amount of time,
Yep.
you haven't seen this happen. To me, it's like, I don't think it's warrants, changing, because I feel like if it's an issue, then yes, but the fact that it's not, to me, I'd be okay with leaving it, but.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mary and Karen. I mean, it seems to me that the fact that we can't think of an example.
Mike, let's think back, and this will resonate with you, to former council chair Messer.
Yeah,
He was all hot and bothered with how the school administered the high school building project,
yes.
right? I could see someone, and I'm not picking on him, but
No.
there might be a public interest in getting to the bottom of a matter that's not directly a council issue, but affects the town and its operations.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that might be a scenario by which, or through which you'd like to have a public hearing.
okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
And the summons is because you may have a hostile witness, someone that's not there under their free will. The summons requires them to be there.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I have so many other questions that are really kind of unrelated as to, the enforceability of such a summons, et cetera, et cetera. But that all being said, the fact that we can't come up with an example that we actually needed to employ this section tells me that it's not broken. So let's leave it alone.
Again, I think the real weight in the enforcement comes through the Superior Court being the one to issue the summons.
Right.
Contempt of court, I suspect there's other penalties associated with not complying with a court-ordered summons.
Yeah.
This just adds on top of it an extra little fine that we can impose.
A little
Right.
motivation, yeah. And am I right in this, in saying that this charter, are pieces of this charter go way back to like 69 or 70, or I think the last date at the end of the charter says 1993.
Well, it was first put in place in 1969. I'm sure that there are remnants from the original version, yes.
Yeah, okay. We're not seeing a revision here.
Okay.
I don't see any cause to make any change, and I think that's unanimous, so.
Foster has a comment on this section as well, if you want to read that.
Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. Foster says, under Article 10, Section 1002, should the amount of the fines be failure to obey summons, need to be discussed and or adjusted? So it's the same question essentially, is it not?
Well, I think he's asking, what is the circumstance by which you could impose a fine? And the way this is worded, it's for failure to obey the summons and to appear at the hearing. I think he might be asking whether there should be other reasons a fine could be imposed. I'm not sure.
Okay, should the amount of the fines,
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. It's amount. Sorry.
well, he may have intended what you said.
No, rereading it, he said, should the amount of the fine. So I think it's back to the same issue Nick had.
Okay,
Incidentally, were you aware that Alan Foster resigned from the committee? He had change of personal circumstance and wasn't able to fulfill his duties.
oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, he was actually on the zoning board too, and he resigned. He did not end up doing it.
Yeah, he was just recently appointed, right, Karen?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So we have an opening on the zoning board.
Oh, can I ask one other thing, Tom? This is not really having to do with, but I just noticed it said if he, she find, like, are we changing the language to be they, to be more, because I know like in our policy for the city of Saco, which I did a lot on, we changed everything to be they instead of having any he, she anywhere. And I didn't know if that was something Scarborough was doing.
We certainly have done that in other ordinances. Whoop,
Yeah.
sorry. So that would be appropriate in this day and age.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that ought to be a question we ask of the full committee. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
global.
yeah. I just noticed it here. I hadn't noticed it in the document, and then I noticed it here, and I was like, oh wait. For some reason, I thought that I hadn't seen that throughout the document, but maybe I missed. You know, maybe there's some. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
I think we tried to do general neutral or more inclusive language last revision, and this may have been just a holdover we missed.
yeah, yeah. 'Cause I know that's something I looked for when I originally looked at it, and I thought I didn't see any. So this, yeah, you're right. This might be just one that.
And where is
Went
that,
by.
Mary?
So that's section, in this 102. So it says after given jurisdiction to hear such complaints, said justice, if he, she, so it's about like 5 from the, yep, you got it right there.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the feedback here.
Because I'm not hearing it.
I hear
you
it every now and then. Oh,
Huh.
there it is. It's me. Well, it's not me per se, but, okay, that's a good comment there, Mary. So, I have 3-0 that, it's unanimous that we're gonna leave, the fine as is. And in addition, I'll make a note that, in this case, of course, he, she, we changed to they, and then take that opportunity to look through the full document and, make it gender neutral as well.
Okay.
All right. Okay, the next comment is 1003.4 from me, Wood. And I think I want to just remove this because I thought that this comment, I thought it was more like a HR function. But I understand that this whole section has to do with general provisions is the title of it.
It's personnel.
Article 10.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So I don't know. I guess I wrote it down a couple months ago thinking that there would be another section or a more appropriate place in the charter that would speak more directly to HR kind of functions, but I don't see any, so.
No, I think this is the catch-all. You know, the general provisions, if it doesn't fit neatly somewhere else, it ends up here.
Okay. So, yeah, so I'm fine. I can move on. Anybody have a comment to that or no?
There's another comment from Mike Stevenson.
Oh, yes, yep. So Stevenson says, I would recommend adding that any removal of a council member would be without prejudice as it pertains to Title VII.
The heck does that mean?
3.4.
This whole section, 103 or 1003, deals with employees of the town, so not elected officials.
Yeah.
So this is the administrative arm. So I don't know what he's quite getting at. I mean, Title VII, I don't know if that's civil rights or what it is, but
Yeah, it's in the civil rights law, but
So I have the paper, what section was he referring to? I can find it.
well, it's noted as 1003.4.
Yep, and then what other one did he refer back to?
He only said, I would recommend adding that any removal of a council member would be without prejudice as it pertains to Title VII.
Title VII.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964. I had to look it up. I didn't know.
Oh, okay, Title VII. Okay, I was thinking he was referring to something else within the charter.
Oh, no, civil rights, yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
It looks
think he's
like
off
referring
base.
to council members as town employees, though. It almost sounds like.
Yeah. But this also, Tom, this also mentions officer. So what does that mean? Does that mean like officer or says officer or like if you go up a little bit into 103 point, any officer or employee. Now, what would that, an officer, does that mean police or does that mean something else? Or just mean officer of the?
Well,
Like,
remember, this is all couched within my authority. So this would be
Yes.
any employee under my
Yes.
administrative direction. I think municipal officers is what
Just
the
yeah. Okay, I just want, that's what I assumed it meant, but I just wanted to be sure of just what does that? Yep.
So it's not an officer such, an elected official. It would be an officer,
Yeah.
municipal officer under state law that is actually an administrative employee.
Okay.
I can, at the full council meeting, we can reach out, or the full charter review committee, we can reach out to Stevenson and ask him for further
Yep.
explanation as to what he's.
But it wouldn't affect this section anyway, though. I mean, it might affect another section, but wouldn't
might.
affect this one. Maybe.
might. I would think, I mean, I don't want to belabor it, but a council member, they're referring to an elected official, right?
Mhm.
And I think we've already, I mean, that's covered in earlier articles, is it not? So,
Yeah, and actually, no one can remove a counselor. There's certain things and
right,
that would require them to be ineligible to hold the seat, but the rest of council can't remove a counselor as much as they'd like to.
right. Okay, great. So see no objection, we'll move on. We're at 1007, at least from what I see. Stevenson says charter amendments. I would like to see specifics about which general laws. Interestingly, some towns reference mass as an MA, general laws, but reference them they do. Falmouth refers to MGL, circle, I don't know, circuit 43B and articles of 89 and 113 of the amendments to the Constitution. Again, mass, not Maine. Amendments to this charter may be proposed and enacted in accordance with the general laws of the state of Maine. Comment, Mary or Karen?
I think we kind of, my feeling is the same on we covered this earlier, where I feel like less is more, and I think it's better sometimes to keep it general, to not limit yourself, like it looks like, to certain articles and things like that. I personally don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, as I've said earlier, that this is a very conscious construct to be not specific, to the extent that other things can change and create problems. So I think a general reference is sufficient here and elsewhere.
I'm okay with that as well.
Okay. And our arguments against ring familiar, like Karen said, to other areas. In fact, I was inquisitive as well as to where there might be opportunities to put in specific laws or reference specific laws, but I've been convinced otherwise. So. All right, I'll show that it's unanimous 3-0 that we should leave it alone, and I'll use the same justification as we did on similar arguments about putting specific references to laws in the charter, if that's okay, Mary and Karen.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. So 1007, again, reference would. I dropped that. We can move on. 1008, Stevenson. Charter review. I think this needs expanding to include options to change in between the review periods and how that process is achieved. Given that recalls can be petitioned with as few as 25 signatures, the process should be similar. The document history does indicate that changes have been made historically in between the review periods. So how did this happen? And let's see, there's more. I got to scroll here. We should not have a process accessible by people inside government that is not accessible to the townspeople at large. Tom, does this speak to a bit of what the legal opinion we received not too long ago as to what is required to initiate a change to the charter?
Yeah, there's a statute that guides this. There's two paths you can take: a review, which we're undertaking, which is council initiated, and they control what actually goes to the voters that you recommend. The other path would be a charter commission, which can either be created by council or actually initiated by the public. So state law already provides for a self-policing. The council doesn't need to initiate it; the public can if it wishes. But in that instance, commission members are elected to that position, and what they recommend goes directly to the voters, and the voters prevail or control. So I think there's already systems in place to answer kind of his last sentence there. We should not have a process accessible by the people inside government that's not accessible by the towns and people at large. I think there is a process.
Agreed.
Yeah.
1007 says amendments, like are to be proposed and enacted in accordance with the general law, so it
Right.
says that, that's what it says right there. I mean, it doesn't explain it, but it refers to making amendments.
Yeah, I mean, this is good questions, good points, but it's a reoccurring theme. It's that there are controlling pieces elsewhere beyond this document, and I know that's a source of some confusion and annoyance, perhaps. And so I'm not surprised to see it. I thought Foster's comment, the next one, was insightful.
Okay. Oh, he's on the same one, all right. Should the town charter be revised more often than every 10 years? Or does the term at least suffice? Stating an actual number such as 10 could give the effect of informally invalidating, updating it sooner. Interesting.
My guess is the word "at least" leading that off is very purposeful. So it certainly can be sooner, but I think having a 10-year gives us a kick in the pants that if for whatever reason we are complacent and don't do it, it really forces this to happen. And the voters have said they want it to happen. But there's nothing that precludes something 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever you want to do, the council wants to do.
Right. Mary, Karen, you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, it seems to me that all the other towns kind of do this every 10 years. Is that typical, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I think what we're going to find in the end is that there were a lot of questions, a lot of suggestions here, but what we're finding in our review, I think, because there's not many changes we're recommending, is that this is a pretty well thought out document. And so, I don't think I think it needs to be looked at periodically and maybe modernized, but I think the bones are really strong.
It's interesting. This article has gotten some additional attention because Stevenson also says, I would suggest the charter be reviewed at least every 5 years.
Yeah.
Versus every 10.
Selfishly, I don't want to go through it that often, but
It doesn't seem appropriate. I mean, I think 5 years is not enough time for changes and things to play out generally. And I think 10 years is appropriate. And that's why all the other towns do it that way. And that's, as you just said, that's how we do it. And it seems to be working well.
Yeah, I think 10 years. I agree with 10 years. So I think 5 years, the thing is, like, if you had a charter review that took a long time, like you could be doing it for a while and then 3 years later you got to be back at it again, like if you happen to be a committee that took a long time doing it. I mean, it could be,
Well, the last one, I think the last one Annalise said took over a year.
Yeah.
And I would submit if something's really broken or a new thing that you want to add, there'll be motivation to make that happen.
True.
Yes.
And there was a public comment that came through you, Karen, but it shows should have more restrictive guidelines on who can qualify and serve on the committee. I think they're talking about the Charter Review Committee. The resident's suggestion was that to be able to serve on the Charter Review Committee, a person must have owned and resided in the town for a minimum of 10 years.
That was feedback from a resident who's lived here 25 years and actually works for the town. And I guess not everyone peruses the town website like I do, because I became very aware of this committee and applied to it. And I think they were a little put off when they found out there are people who don't own in the town and that had only recently moved to the town that were serving on the committee. And that was the feedback that I got from them. I don't agree or disagree with it, but I could see the reasoning and the frustration behind that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if other towns limit who can serve on the committees or not. But again, they're being appointed by the town councilors, correct? So I think
Right.
there's also that part of it that goes into it.
And that, I would imagine that assuming that you have an abundance of individuals, numbers of people that exceed what is needed, the town council can be very careful and judicious in who they select.
And in fact, they were with this austere group of folks collected here.
And I think, to me, like, I think it's kind of nice to have people from different, like, when you're new to a place, you have a fresh perspective and you don't, have all of the, viewpoints that you've had after living here for a long time. So I think it's kind of nice to have a mix of, some people that have been here longer and, like different lengths of time. I think it's kind of nice.
Good to
Yeah,
have.
right or wrong, well, the good news is we had an abundance of very qualified, interested people to serve. This council used a number of different criteria including geographic dispersion. That wasn't the sole reason, but that was one of the factors they looked at, to
That's
make sure we had
important.
representation townwide.
Mhm.
So I think you have to have faith that the council at the time will use proper judgment and assemble a group of, um, residents who will do a good, thorough job of this.
And I imagine the own part of the comment refers to owning land.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't agree with that either, because I think, I don't know, I feel like if you rent, you're still part of the community, so I don't agree with that myself.
Yeah,
I don't
you're
think it should be that restrictive.
Yeah, no.
right. You're subject to all the provisions of the charter, whether you own land or
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
All right, so let's see. I think I've captured the high points. It looks like we're not suggesting any real substantive changes here, right?
No.
All right, so we're moving on to 1009.1. Mary, I have concerns that it is up to the council, board or committee member to disclose their conflict of interest. If the person chooses not to bring up the conflict, the other members have no recourse to deal with the issue.
Am I correct in my reading of that? That was what I read there, that it seems it's incumbent upon the person who has the conflict to say, I have a conflict, I'm going to recuse myself.
That was my actual
Yeah,
real experience with it.
because I did look at, I know there was, let me see if I can find it because I pulled it up, but I think it might have been, someone else might have mentioned, oh, I guess I'm on that screen. I need to get out of this screen. But I did pull up another town that actually had they had their disclosure of interest, like someone else on the council or the board could say, I think this person has a conflict of interest, and then I think it would be voted on. I think, let me just see if I can.
But we
find
have,
that.
I mean, that's how it just makes me think of zoning board where you say, okay, I have a conflict of interest or what I
Yeah.
appears to be, and then the board will vote on it. But if someone doesn't disclose it, then we don't know about it.
well, that's true. But I know I've had experience on the council and the planning board where individuals have disclosed what they believe to be a perceived conflict of interest, and they've asked to be recused. In other cases, they've asked, like you said, Karen, I'm involved in XYZ, and I'd like the board to vote on whether they'd like me to participate or not. But also, I've had members that have brought up objection of a individual's participation. If they didn't divulge their conflict, that individual would bring it up as a point of order, and then the board or the council would take it up as a vote.
Yeah, this is customary. The duty to disclose is for the person. That's first and foremost. I think in the event that they don't, and another member is aware of something, there certainly are procedures, Robert's Rules of Order. There's ways to raise that, and it would follow the same process. You should also just be aware that there's a companion piece that goes into far more detail. And this is the council rules. So these are the rules that they impose upon themselves.
Yeah.
And in relevant part, it's 200, where is it? Sorry, here we go. So this is called breach of rules, standards of conduct, and then there's this conflict of interest. This actually requires them to file with the town clerk annually a disclosure of written disclosure of conflict, confidential information. It also requires them, speaks to any gifts or favors that they may receive as in their elected capacity, use of town property. So my only point is the council has gone over and above and imposed additional details on themselves. The difference, of course, is they can change those. Charter is imposed on them and they have no control over that. So I guess the other thing, Mike, you mentioned, and this is where it gets a little tricky. You know, the conflicts of interest really take two different types. One is a real conflict for which there's either a financial or pecuniary interest. And those are pretty obvious, right? The gray area has to do with the perceived conflict. And that's a little trickier. And my advice is always, when in doubt, disclose and let the body determine for you. That's the safest way to do it. And more often than not, people are overly cautious and their concern for the perception is unfounded in the eyes of the rest of the board members. Interestingly, just as an aside, I've also had the occasion of having folks try to recuse themselves kind of because they didn't want to vote on a controversial matter. I don't know what the motivation was. And the board can overrule.
The election.
Yeah, the person is compelled to vote. The recusal isn't theirs to decide. It's for the remaining members to decide on their behalf. So I'm getting way deep in the weeds here, but
No, you're very right. I mean, I remember when I was a rookie on the planning board, a couple months in, and Rick Cheney took me to school on that. You know, as a gentleman that he always has, you can't recuse. And I don't even remember why I thought I was going to recuse, but so
I don't know if, so I'm sorry, Mike, I just want to ask, so I don't know if you want to hear, I did find because Kennybunk does have in their charter, the conflict of interest whereby a fellow member, you know, of the council can bring it up. And then the other officials can vote on whether they should be excused from participating. So I don't know if that is something anyone is interested in having that actually in the charter, or we're okay with just, you know, having the policy that is created. So I know that at least Kennybunk, and I'm not sure if other ones do, but this was one that I found that did have something in their charter covering that part.
I wonder if the charter is really the place for something like that. I think that might find a home in the council rules. Mary, do you recall having similar provisions in the Board of Education's?
See, I think it's similar to this, because I remember, I don't think I was on the board, but I remember, I think it was after I left the board, I felt that someone maybe did have a conflict, but that person didn't bring it up. So it didn't seem like there was any way for other board members to say anything. Because I remember, you know, watching the meeting saying, that person didn't say anything. And, you know, maybe the people would have voted that that wasn't a conflict of interest. I don't know, but it didn't seem to be. I know talking with Jackie and, you know, Jody, like they seem to say, no, there's nothing, you know, if that person doesn't bring it up, there's nothing you can do. So I don't think the school board has those same ways. But from my understanding, this was from a few years ago, but I remember having conversations about it and they said, no, they didn't think they did. So
I think you bring up an excellent point. That's a scenario that we can envision, and it would seem appropriate for another member of the body to raise the issue and have it dispensed with by the body.
Yeah,
it might be uncomfortable, but it might be really important too.
Yeah, because I can just see where you might have, like on the school board, you might have something where a school board member's relative is, you know, maybe they're doing contracts and they have a relative who is a teacher that the contract, you know, will affect, you know, okay, that might be something, you know, that you might want to think about. at least you'd want to bring it up and say, okay, maybe it's, maybe people would say, no, that's okay. Maybe this is your mother, it's not your husband, that kind of thing, but I don't know. So.
You'd like to think that among colleagues, a member would whisper to the other member before the proceeding and say, hey, I really think you ought to disclose this just to kind of get it out in the open.
Yeah.
But as we know, things aren't always as collegial. So I think you're onto something. I think there probably should be a mechanism just to make it clear that any member of the body can raise that issue on someone else.
Yeah.
So I think it seems to me that we all agree that there already is a mechanism.
Well, for the council, but I don't know if there is for other boards.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well,
Karen, do you know with the zoning, like, I don't know, like, because I haven't served on, planning, like any of those committees. Do you know, are there any other policies that impact their?
No, I mean, zoning would fall under this one. Because it's.
So there's not any extra set of, because, yeah.
Well, I mean, this highlighted language is pretty darn inclusive.
Sure.
Any
Right.
person elected or appointed, serving on any body, committee, subcommittee, or commission of the town, whether advisory or otherwise, is obliged to follow this, including the Board of Education.
Yes.
Right.
What isn't here is an explicit statement, kind of a process for someone other than the person that has a duty to disclose raising the issue. And I think you're right, Mike, there probably is a procedural way to raise that, but if we think it's important, you could state it.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making it well-known. I don't know how well-known. I mean, what else crossed my mind is that before one is elected or appointed, maybe they should have signed something saying that they've read certain, read the charter, read the rules of procedures. I don't know.
Well, that's where the oath of office comes in.
Yeah.
The oath isn't given to all of our subcommittees and advisory committees necessarily, but for the appointed positions, elected positions, there's an oath, and among other things, you agree to abide by the charter.
Well, my thinking is that, Mary, if you'd like, if you're prepared to do it now, great. If not, maybe provide some language you'd like to maybe add to 1009.1 that would make it clear that not only those that are serving on these committees or subcommittees or whatnot, but I don't know, make it more
Broad.
Yeah, more broad, where any individual on, I don't want to come up with the language now, but.
Well,
Maybe-
I can kind of base, because I have that Kennebunk language that we can, kind of use from that. But then the other question, one other question. I assume it would only be someone that's on the board serving. It could not be a member of the public that brings that up. And what happens if a member of the public brings it up? I'm just curious, I don't know.
No, the difference would be a member of the public can certainly bring it up, but I think another
Yes.
member of the body could compel, can
Yes.
force.
Yeah.
There's weight behind other member as opposed to a member of the public.
Yeah.
Mary, do you have that language handy? Can you read it? Is it wordy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Let me get into it. 1 second. So, see, the first part is very similar. That that they can. So it says, similarly, any elected or appointed town official of the board or committee who believes that a fellow member of the collective body or a member of the fellow member's immediate family has a financial or special interest other than the interest held by the public generally shall raise the issue with the collective body and request disclosure of the nature and possible extent of such interest by the town official. Once the issue of the conflict has been initiated relative to an individual town official and the disclosure has been made as provided above, such individuals remaining fellow town officials shall vote on whether such individual shall be excused from participating in the deliberation or vote.
Yeah, so maybe not all that language is necessary.
Yeah, that language isn't the best. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, but I can, if that's okay, just like the general idea of it, I can make it so that it's much more similar to the language we have,
Yeah, I might suggest I'm sorry for the feedback. We create that as 1009.2, new language
Okay.
that would talk about this other path,
Okay,
and then renumber what now is 2 to 3, because that talks about once the disclosure's happened,
yeah,
what, you know, what
yes.
happens then.
Yep, that makes sense, because this, yeah, so I will, kind of using that, but just kind of making the language a little more clear. I can send, do you want me to send that to you, Mike, so you can add it to the tracker, or do you want me to send it to everybody, and how would you like me to do that?
Well, you can send it to everybody, but
Yep,
I'll add it to the tracker.
okay, and then I'll send it to everyone, and then, Karen, if anybody has an edit on it, feel free to add whatever, so I'll send that.
And I'll also employ Tom's suggestion, if there's no objection, to make it a .2 and then move .2 to
Yep.
.3. All right, well, maybe it's for a discussion for another day, but I still think that this whole disclosure, which is very important, but we have so many committees and subcommittees, and we don't really go through any kind of real education as to whether, we reveal any kind of potential conflicts.
Yeah, Mike, we've talked about having a kind of consistent onboarding documents. Usually it's up to the committee chair to kind of bring under their wing the new members, and some do it better than others, frankly. We'd be well served to have some sort of onboarding packet, so
Yeah.
that territory is covered.
Yeah, let's do an onboarding packet committee. No, that's a great idea, though. I mean, that, just maybe just a real quick and simple several page document that just makes the appointee become familiar with certain provisions, The last comment, 1010, should be an easy one, but it all comes under the formatting of the document in general. And I'm just going to save all those comments for the end, when we come to the near the end of our work, because that's where it belongs, I think, anyway.
I'm curious why this 93 date is here.
I know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
strange.
Dates are all over the place. No disrespect to who's trying to keep up with it, but. All right.
Well, I think Tony is going to try to introduce a more comprehensive history of revision dates, at least. So there's that history is kind of in this document, probably on the cover page. It
Yeah,
would require someone to do some research if they want to go back and see what those were, but
right.
that makes a lot of sense. And we have that to some extent already.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I think part of this committee's work should be, actually, I think it's a charge of the council, so should be an explanation of changes. And ideally, the way they do it in the FAA is when we change our document, we change it on prescriptive dates every year, several times, or 2-3 times. But you'll have the old in the left column, and then you'll have the new in the right column. So you can easily see, the reader can easily see what's been changed and to what extent. I think it would go a long way for this kind of document as well.
Yeah,
All right.
Didn't you share that, Mike?
Huh?
You shared an FAA document, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I did.
That's maybe something we bring up to the full committee.
I think so. Part of me thinks that it might require a lot of time and attention where, I don't know. I really miss the days you could just sit down and just view it on a screen, with everybody in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. I know Liam put it in there.
I think it's here.
Yeah, you see that right there, the 7110. right here. You don't see my cursor here. So if it'll load for a bit because it's big,
I guess 687 pages.
Wow.
but it's only in the, maybe in the first, like, say, you see how this, you go to the top of that page right there,
Yeah.
you'll see it says explanation of changes. And then it lists each, in our case, it would list each article. And it would have just a plain language explanation of what the change is.
Like this.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
But then if you scroll further, past the explanation of changes, keep going.
Only a government agency could come up with this.
Right here. I know. Oh, this is the same thing. Explanation changes, change one. But I think it's at the end, it might be at the end of the document where they have the actual old next to the new. So it's a further illustration as to what was actually changed.
No, I'm going to get lost in this, Mike.
Right. But anyway, in the middle of the document, just scroll up and go to the middle of your page somewhere. You know, way up. Yeah, just take the right scroll. Oh, right, stop right there. You see the solid black line next to out of service?
Yeah, right here.
That's another illustration as to what's been changed in this latest document. So the reader can see right away that something in the first two lines of that paragraph were changed. So it might be overkill, but you know.
Okay.
Seems like that would be nice, like at the council, like when, after the council decides what they want to change and what they don't want to change, to
Right.
actually, present that like at the council, like, on screen for, all the viewers that are watching with
Exactly.
bated breath.
So you can go right to it, you know.
Yeah, my only sense is what this committee is kind of reporting out. It's just going to be a handful of things. It may be that the other committees do have a lot of different recommendations, but there again, those are just subcommittee recommendations. It remains to be seen what the full committee agrees to pass on. My prediction is it's going to be less than a dozen changes.
Yeah. Yeah, likely.
Yep.
And
Oh, can
probably, yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, likely the number of changes would be minimal. I'd like to see just some formatting changes though. But I also wonder whether we'll be able to get our work done in time, within the timeline that the council has requested, but.
That timeline really, I'm more sensitive to summer months, frankly, for you. And there's no reason for this to drag on, but it's not going to go on the June primary. It's really preparing this for going to the voters in November. So we have time, but I don't want to necessarily take our foot off the gas. I think we ought to, deliberately work through this and complete it. We're probably working at a pace faster than we need to, but
Yeah,
we're doing it.
okay. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll take our efforts tonight and I'll put it on the tracker. I know that at the full committee, they talked about a Word document with track changes. I assume we all have some experience with that process. And I shudder to think what that Word document would look like with everybody's little balloons and lines and.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure how we're going to manage that. I wouldn't suggest we start a red line document until the committee's voted on things.
I think you're right. I think it's too early to do that. So I'm not going to do that right now.
Oh, can I ask one question? This is kind of going back to, how I had sent an edit for the recall procedure. And I don't know if we ever voted on that because I didn't, because I sent it later. So I didn't know if we wanted to vote on that, that change I had to kind of give it a few more restrictions. And I just thought that might be a good deal because if our committee might say no to it, and that's,
Yeah, because.
Was it 9 point?
Let me find it here.
I know it's in the 9s. 90, is it 903 maybe? Yeah, 903. 903. It would be 903.1.
And this was expanding on the statement of reason or reasons for the recall?
Yes, yep. It was just expanding the reason. So I think Mike, you'd put it in the tracker because I sent it to you and then I think you put it in the tracker, but because we kind of added it later, we never actually voted whether that was something that the committee was in favor of or not.
All right, good. Yeah, good call there, Mary. So we can vote on that today because the minutes do reflect that we discussed it and that you were going to submit some language. So let's, yeah, we got a few minutes, so I think it's a good idea to do that now. Let's see, the original, I don't know, Tom, can you put up the charter again and just show us 9031 as it currently exists?
Perhaps.
I think I have it, and I think Karen, I think we both have, I have it.
Have it?
I can look at, on paper here, so.
Okay. Let me find it for myself too.
Because the sentence that it would have impact is that the affidavit must state the name and the office held by the official sought to be recalled and must contain a statement of the reason or reasons for the proposed recall. So that part would have another, other sentences after that to,
Okay, so Mary,
change that.
so are you offering this as amendment to be added or to change in the existing language?
I think it would be I don't have the tracker in front of me, so I can't see what I know kind of in general what my language was, but I don't have that.
Yeah, I can read it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have the tracker in front of me. I have the general language. I have, the general charter with some of the comments, but I don't have that.
Yeah, I think it's around this highlighted text, right, Mary?
Yes, exactly. Yep. It would be, I think probably the text would either kind of continue on from there and then change it and then add some more to it because I know it gave like maybe 4 different reasons for recall.
Yeah, so Mary offered this language. An elected official may be recalled for I, or 1, failure to appropriately carry out duties and responsibilities of the office, or engaging in conduct which brings the office in disrepute, or 3, engaging in conduct which displays an unfitness to hold the office, or for indictment or conviction of a felony under the laws of the state of Maine, or the laws of the US, or the laws of any state of nation, or entry of a plea of guilty or no contest to such an offense. The stated reason for recall must be noted on the petition. So here, what Tom has highlighted is the official sought to be recalled and must contain a statement of reason, of the reason or reasons for the proposed recall. Would it make sense to put Mary's suggestive language by the official sought to be recalled and then put in Mary's language and end it?
So replace this language with Mary's?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the point is we can wordsmith it at the full committee is I think most importantly to get the notion in front of the full committee, right? If
Yeah.
Yes.
we need to,
okay. All right, so all in favor of us proposing the additional language for 9031 as Mary has suggested and bring it forth to the full committee? In favor, can I have a second? That's a motion.
Oh, second.
All in favor? All right, show that to be unanimous. Okay, so I'll make note of that. All right, thanks for doing that housekeeping there, Mary. So
Oh, absolutely.
9031.
I think our work is done.
Yeah. On time and on budget.
There you
60
go.
minutes, nicely done, Mr.
All
Wood.
right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just one thing, I just want to make sure we do have public comment. We have no attendees.
Oh, yes, very good. Thank you. I'm used to reading off an agenda sheet. All right,
And
well, with that, I'll move for adjournment. All in favor? Or second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you
Well, it's
soon.
nice working with you all.
Yeah, very efficient.
Oh, we're not done.
Well, I've enjoyed working with the